Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see you all here. Thank you so much for being here, for braving the weather, and joining us at the Winter Lecture Series. My name is Christopher Gwynn. I serve as the Chief of Interpretation and Education here at Gettysburg National Military Park. And I'm very excited to welcome you here for this particular presentation. It's a pleasure to welcome back to the Battlefield Park the Marching Still Ensemble. We've been fortunate enough to have this group of musicians here before previously, once during the anniversary of the battle, once out at the Park Amphitheater as part of our campfire series. And every time I listen to them, I'm blown away by their musicality, by their skill, and their obvious passion for the story and the performance they tell. They're led by musician, vocalist, and lyricist Ryan Mascilak, who's responsible for much of the moving performance you're about to see. So please join me in welcoming Ryan and the Marching Still Ensemble.
I want to thank you, Christopher Gwynn, for that very kind introduction, and Gettysburg National Military Park. I'm not going to talk too much right now, but I want to thank you for being here and welcome you to Marching Still. I will say a little bit more about some of the poems as we go on, but we like to set the mood with the first couple of numbers. All of the, except one, which is a special treat for you this afternoon, the poems have been written during or around the time of the Civil War, all the words you're going to hear. The music is 100% composed in the 21st century. So we're going to set the mood with the first couple of pieces. And so we hope you enjoy, and thank you for coming to Marching Still. Thank you. It's time I'd like to invite our chorus up, our legion of singers. And the first poem we're going to hear this afternoon is titled The 1037, and it's a group of old soldiers and men who are saluting and giving cheers to those who have fallen. And the words, when you think about them, they're kind of they're tough to read at some parts. But we're imagining this in a room, in a hall with them dining and trying to, passing around some drinks and eating and trying to commemorate those in that type of environment. And I think, I hope that this will put you in that room with these men. 1037.
Years ago today, we raised our hands to heaven, and on the rolls of muster, our names were 37. There were just 1,000 bayonets, and the swords were 37, as we took our oath of service with our right hands raised to heaven. Oh, it was a gallant day, and memory still adored. That day of our sunbright nuptials, with the musket and the sword. Shrill rang the fifes, the bugles blared, beneath the cloudless heaven. Twinkled 1,000 bayonets, and the swords were 37. Of 1,000 stalwart bayonets, 200 march today. Hundreds lie in Virginia swamps, and others in Maryland clay, while other hundreds as happy drag their mangled limbs around, and envy the deep, long, blessed sleep of the battlefield's holy ground. Well, the swords were night a week ago, the men was just 11, gathered around a banqueting board with seats for 37. There were 2 came in on crutches, and 2 had each brought a hand to pour the wine and raise the cup as we toasted our flag and land. And the room seemed filled with whispers as we looked at the vacant seats, and the choking throats we pushed aside the rich but untasted meats. And in silence we brimmed our glasses as we stood up just 11, and we bowed as we drank to the loved and the dead who had made us 37. And we bowed as we drank to the loved and the dead who made us 37.
Thank you. So while all that is going on in a room somewhere inside, we now go to a sleeping campsite with the Lone Sentry, who is watching the camp tonight. And this is his story.
Was in the dying of the day, the darkness grew so still, the drowsy pipe of evening birds was hushed upon the hill. Athwart the shadows of the vale slumbered the men of might, and one lone sentry placed his rounds to watch the camp that night. A grave and solemn man was he, with deep and somber brow. The dreamful eyes seemed hoarding up some unaccomplished vow. The wistful glance peered o'er the plains beneath the starry light, and with the murmured name of God he watched the camp that night. ascend the valley march came heaving o'er his soul. Richmond and Sharpsburg thundered by with that tremendous fight, which gave him to the angel host who watched the camp that night. We mourn for him who died for us with one resistless moan, while in the valley of the Lord he marches to the throne. He kept the faith of men and saints, sublime and pure and bright. He sleeps and all is well with him who watched the camp that night. Brothers, the midnight of the cause is shrouded in our fate. The demon gods pollute our halls with fire and lust and hate. Be strong, be valiant, be assured, strike home for heaven and right. The soul of Jackson stalks abroad and guards the camp tonight. Oh, the soul of Jackson stalks abroad and guards the camp tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. And while that is happening outside, there's a little home somewhere. Because, of course, now it's December of 1862, of course. And we are listening to a woman peer out the window and thinking of her loved one. And very fitting, we have Valentine's Day this weekend and yesterday, and the snow, which I think now is rain. But we have that whole combination to listen to be brought into that parlor room in 1862 and hear these words from a loved one thinking about her soldier.
bring our darling from the fight.
So I first visited Gettysburg here in 2018. I always wanted to visit as a kid, and my mother had, I won't say promised, but established significantly high hopes in the household that we would come to Gettysburg from Massachusetts, where I grew up, and never happened. And I've since forgiven her for that. But 2018 had about a day and a half here, and found a book of Civil War poetry right downtown historic Gettysburg at the For the Historian bookstore. If you haven't visited there yet, I encourage you to do so. Great store. And wanted to do something to commemorate these poetry, and I loving this style of music, which is so enriched in America's history. The melodies came, and the whole point speaks for itself, but is what would this poem perhaps have sounded like if the author was at a campfire, was on site, and somebody with a fiddle or a guitar was next to him, a buddy, and what might that have happened? Some of the poems and the songs are very true to that, and some of them have a more dramatic flair to it, but that is always at the core of everything that I've written, to make it sound, to bring you into that atmosphere. And our next poem, and speaking on the line of Christmas Night of '62, He'll See It When He Wakes, is the most aligned with Valentine's Day, which tells the story of words, a letter that did not get to a soldier in time for him to read them, and the story of these soldiers, how they find this letter that was written to him, and what he does for the one that has fallen. Titled, He'll See It When He Wakes.
Amid the clouds of battle smoke, the sun had died away, and where the storm of battle broke, 1,000 warriors lay. A band of friends upon the field stood round the youthful form, who when the war clouds thunder pealed had perished in the storm. Upon his forehead, on his hair, the coming light breaks, and each dear brother standing there a tender farewell takes. But ere they laid him in his home, there came a comrade near, and gave a token that had come from her the dead held dear. A moment's thought upon them pressed, then came all too late, but oh my love, you'll see them when he wakes. No sound disturb his gentle rest, no noise his slumber breaks. But thy words sleep upon his breast, he'll see them when he wakes. But thy words sleep upon his breast, he'll see them when he wakes.
Thank you. Next we have The General's Death, which this poem is based off of a real event, a true story.
General dashed along the road amid the pelting rain. How joyously his bold face glowed to hear our cheers refrain. His blue blouse flapped in wind and wet, his boots were splashed with mud. Around his lips a smile was set, in his eyes of fire. A laughing word, a gesture kind, we did not ask for more. With 30 weary miles behind, weary fight before. The gun grew light to every man, the crossbows ceased their stress. As onward to the columns fed, we watched our leader press. Within an hour we saw him lie, a bullet in his brain. His manly face turned to the sky, beaten by the rain. Oh, his manly face turned to the sky, beaten by the rain. Beaten by the rain. Beaten by the rain.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next poem, titled The Blue and the Gray, which actually tells a beautiful story of, based on the origination of Memorial Day in America. And The Blue and the Gray really brings you to that. When I was writing the music for these poems, the booklet that I started with was songs of the Union, songs of the or poems of the Union, poems of the Confederacy. And when you read them, except for one that is coming up in a little bit called Always Stand on the Union Side, the rest of them, not always so obvious. They apply to both armies, to both sides, and they apply to the human being at the end, ultimately. And the Blue and the Gray is, I believe, one of the most ultimate tributes to that, to being amongst the battlefield, like right here at Gettysburg, and dealing with both sides of the aftermath, and what that does to a person, which then ultimately leads to the beautiful commemoration we have Memorial Day. And so we'd especially like to attribute this poem, The Blue and the Gray, to our veterans.
By the flow of the inland river, whence the fleets of iron have fled, where the blades of the grave grass quiver, asleep are the ranks of dead. Under the sun and the dew, waiting the judgment day, under the one, the blue, under the other, the gray.
In the storm of the years that are fading, no braver battle was won. Under the sun and the dew, waiting the judgment day. Under the blossoms the blue, under the garlands the gray.
No more shall the war cry sever, or the winding rivers be red. They banish our anger forever. They laurel the graves of the dead.
Under the sun and the dew, waiting the judgment day. Blood and tears for the blue, tears and love for the gray.
Thank you. Next, we have Always Stand on the Union Side. And I picture this as a military march, the fife and drums, having all kinds of arrangements of this played throughout the Army. Would hear it, troops would hear something like this. It's just a very fun idea to think about that. So always stand on the Union side. We have a call to arms. And this is the crowd participation one, by the way. So after the first chorus, the first refrain, you'll get it. We invite you to please sing along. Always stand on the Union side and battle for the right. With conscience clear, we'll laugh at fear in the midst of the boldest fight. In the midst of the boldest fight. Why turn against our native land, the mother whom we love? Whoever rules with gentle hand till children recreant prove. So always stand on the Union side and battle for the right. With conscience clear, we'll laugh at fear in the midst of the boldest fight. In the midst of the boldest fight. Always stand on the Union side and keep your powder dry. We'll soon rejoice both far and wide to see secession die. 'Tis better in defense of truth to be both brave and bold than side with traitors and at last be left out in the cold. So always stand on the Union side, battle for the right. With conscience clear, we'll laugh at fear in the midst of the boldest fight. In the midst of the boldest fight. Always stand on the Union side, 'tis better as you see. Heaven will crown our gallant arms with Union victory. If you would have your children learn to speak with holy pride of this their dear beloved land, stand on the Union side. So always stand on the Union side,
This next poem, this is a first. If you have, actually, if you've been seen marching still here at Gettysburg before, we thank you for being here. It's your first time, we thank you. If you've seen any of our videos, everything is on our website and YouTube channel, where you can watch all of our past performances here at the park and other places as well. But this is a first for marching still, very special to me. I mentioned all the poems were written during the Civil War or around the time shortly thereafter of the Civil War. And right now we're going to feature, this is a poem that was actually written today in this time. So just as all the music has been composed in the last few years, this poem, I went to a Civil War talk. I ended up meeting a wonderful author, Lisa Samia, and she's a Civil War poet, an author, and writes many other wonderful things, but writes Civil War poetry. Especially has a book, I encourage you, one collection called The Nameless and the Faceless. And it tells about all these soldiers and graves, and just here in the cemetery there's the unmarked graves with simply numbers sometimes on them. And this one, and particularly her collection of poems, really pays a lot of special attention to that, to these boys that we don't know, we'll never know. But to not stop there, to still give them the credit that is due, to honor them and commemorate them, whether they have a face, whether they have a name or not. So I had the privilege and honor of composing music to one of Lisa's poems titled Under the Dogwood Tree. And it's just a wrenching, beautiful story of, well, it speaks for itself, but somebody in real time imagining paying tribute to somebody, and what do they do after? How do they get in touch with the loved ones? What can this man do? And Lisa's actually here. She's right here. And so this is actually the debut of Under the Dogwood Tree.
I take my pencil to tell you now of how your son died that day upon the battlefield of the wilderness. Please read on as I say. It was the time of day called twilight. Of this I do believe, that we marched and I saw him fall. So how I do now grieve. I dropped my musket amidst the shot and fire, and knelt beside him
be getting towards the end of our program here, which I think under the dogwood tree leads us exactly the next place that we need to be, which send them home tenderly. We've had that experience with the soldier out on the field, retelling the story, writing letter, thinking of the things to say under that tree. And now we have another phase of that on a grander scale of collecting and taking care of the dead and giving what we have back to their loved ones, back to their homes. Send them home tenderly. And this features our soprano, our wonderful soprano this afternoon, Miss Erin Norley.
Send them home tenderly, the sleepers at rest, with hands meekly folded on each silent breast. Let them come back to slumber beneath northern skies, where true hearts may weep over them and prayer incense rise. Send them home tenderly, the noble and true, scarce gone from their hearthstones, scarce whispered adieu. Gone forth for their country, its rights to sustain, but all bleeding and lifeless, returning Send them home tenderly, our martyred and brave, with stars and stars around them, all robed for the grave. Bereaved mothers shall clasp them in pride to their breast, and the good of our nation shall weep
Next is Tell the Boys, the War Has Ended. There is a lyric video of this poem on YouTube and on the Marching Still website, and if you look at the scenery as the lyrics are going over the video of this, the fields you're looking at are images right here of Gettysburg. I encourage you to go and watch that to really see that beautiful imagery. Tell the Boys, the War Has Ended by Emily J. Moore.
Tell the boys the war has ended. These were all the words he said. Tell the boys the war has ended. In an instant, more was dead. Strangely bright, serene and cheerful was the smile upon his face, while the pain of late so fearful had not left the slightest trace. Tell the boys the war has ended, and with heavenly visions bright, thoughts of comrades loved were blended as his spirit took its flight. Tell the boys the war has ended. Grant, O God, it may be so, was the prayer which then ascended in a whisper deep low. Tell the boys the war has ended, and his warfare then was o'er, as by angel bands attended, he departed from earth's shore. Bursting shells, cannons roaring, could not rouse him by their din. He to better worlds was soaring, free from war and pain and sin. He to better worlds was soaring, free from war, pain and sin.
Thank you. I'll invite our rest of our ensemble back up for the final two poems of this afternoon's program. And the first of these final two is a dirge for a soldier, Lay Him Low.
his eyes, his work is done. What to him is friend or foeman, rise of moon or set of sun, hand of man or kiss of woman, lay him low, in the clover or the snow. What cares he? He cannot know. Lay him low, lay him low. As man may, he fought his fight, proved his truth by his endeavor. Let him sleep in solemn night, sleep forever and forever. Lay him low, in the clover or the snow. What cares he? He cannot know. Lay him low, lay him Hold him in his country stars, roll the drum and fire the volley. What to him are all our wars? What would death be mocking folly? Lay him low, in the clover or the snow. What cares he? He cannot know. Lay him low, lay him low. Leave him to God's watching eye. Trust him to the hand that made him. Mortal love weeps silently by. God alone has power to aid him. Lay him low, in the clover or the snow. What cares he? He cannot know. Lay him low, What cares he? He cannot know. Lay him low,
Thank you so very much. Especially as mentioned, thank you for being here with this weather. It's my first time in Gettysburg during the winter time at the park. Very special experience. We've only been here in the summer, in July, in the good old heat, but it's really quite beautiful, and so many thoughts that go through driving through throughout the seasons. I can't wait to experience every season here. But thank you from the depths of my being and our being for being here this afternoon, for the park and the Gettysburg Foundation for hosting us again and giving us this privilege and humbling honor of being a part of the 2025 Winter Lecture Series, and to Christopher Gwynn and Pam Neal at the Permit Office, and Bert Barnett and so many others, and to these authors for giving us these stories, putting us right in the scene with them. Again, you can find all of this music on the official Marching Still website, marchingstilltribute.com. That is your one-stop shop for all the old YouTube videos, the poems, all the words. Everything that you've heard today is up there, along with the programs, the contact information, everything else is up there on the website. And we encourage you to take your programs home with you and take as many as you want. We got plenty more. Take them and please share them with friends and families and others who are passionate about history and who are not, to experience a unique blend and a new way of experiencing, especially Civil War poetry, one of the most beautiful forms that we have. So thank you again. And this brings us to our final poem of the day, which the whole show is based off of Marching Still, and was actually, when I'd written the first, all the chunk of all the poems is, yep, I got a whole cycle here. Months later, almost half a year, I came across this poem online, Marching Still by Minna Irving. It was written later. It was written sometime after the Civil War. So this is one of those, we don't know how much it's true and how much was written for the poem, but it's for each listener to decide, because stuff like this, even if it's not entirely true, did happen. It did happen. So this is Marching Still by Minna Irving. Tells the story of 7 of her sons who go off to fight in the war. And we will let the rest of this overwhelmingly beautiful poem speak for itself. And thank you again from me and the Marching Still Ensemble. Again, we have Erica on the flute. We have Janet Lash on vocals, my wife Mary Grace Mascilak, and Aaron Norley. Thank you.
She is old and bent and wrinkled in her rocker in the sun, and the thick gray woolen stocking that she knits is never done. She will ask the news of battle if you pass her when you will, for to her the troops are marching, marching still.
Seven tall sons above her growing, she sank and died within her, like a flame for want of air. So she knits the woolen stockings for the soldier lads to wear, waiting till the war is ended, for her sons to cross the sill, for she thinks they all are marching still, for she thinks they all are marching
still. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very much.